Hey there, welcome in. Go ahead and get comfortable wherever you are right now. Maybe you're lying down already, blanket pulled up, the lights turned down low. Maybe you've got your eyes half closed, your head sinking into the pillow. Whatever it looks like for you tonight, there's no rush here. There's nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. You've already arrived at the only place that matters, which is right here, right now, with me, for the next little while. Tonight, we're going to talk very gently and very slowly about something enormous, something that fills the whole universe, and yet, somehow, we can't see it at all. It's called dark matter. And I know, that might sound like a big, heavy topic for a quiet night like this one. But honestly, that's exactly why it works so well. Because the story of dark matter is really a story about mystery, about all the things that are out there, quietly holding everything together, without ever asking to be noticed. And there's something soothing about that, isn't there? The idea that so much can be happening, so calmly, so patiently, without any need for our attention at all. So that's where we're headed tonight. Slowly, softly, like a walk through a field in the dark, where you can feel the ground beneath your feet, even though you can't quite see it. We're not going to hurry. We're not going to get tangled up in anything complicated. I'm just going to talk, and you're just going to listen. And if you happen to drift off somewhere along the way, well, that's perfectly fine. That's kind of the whole point. Before we settle all the way in, let me say one quick thing, and then I promise I'll let my voice go soft again for the rest of our time together. If you enjoy these calm little journeys, if this is the sort of thing that helps you unwind at the end of a long day, it would mean the world to me if you take a moment, whenever you're ready, to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You don't have to do it right now. You can do it tomorrow in the daylight when your eyes are open again. But it really does help these quiet stories find their way to other tired souls who are looking for a bit of rest, just like you are, because that's what we're doing here, night after night, helping the world drift off, one sleepy soul at a time. And with that said, I'll let the busy part of the evening fall away. It's just us now. So, dark matter. Let's start not with the science, but with a feeling. You know that sense you get sometimes when you walk into a room and you can tell someone's been there, even though it's empty now. Maybe there's a warmth in the air, or a scent, or a chair that's been moved just slightly. You can't see the person. They're long gone. But you can feel the shape of where they were. That's a little bit like how scientists first came to suspect that dark matter was out there. They couldn't see it. They still can't. Not directly. But they could feel the shape of it. They could see the places where something invisible had left its mark. For most of human history, of course, nobody was thinking about anything like this at all. For thousands and thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and saw exactly what you and I see when we step outside on a clear evening. Stars. Countless little points of light scattered across the dark, like grains of salt spilled across a black tablecloth. And it was easy back then to believe that what you could see was simply everything there was. The stars, the moon, the drifting clouds, the occasional streak of a shooting star. That was the universe, all of it, laid out above you, nothing hidden. And it's a lovely thought, really. A universe you can take in with your own two eyes. A universe that holds nothing back. But nature, it turns out, is a great deal more shy than that. Nature keeps most of itself tucked away, out of sight, quietly minding its own business in the dark. And the deeper we've looked over the last 100 years or so, the more we've come to understand that everything we can actually see, all those stars, all those galaxies, all that glittering light, is only the tiniest sliver of what's really out there. A thin skin over something vast and silent and unseen. Let that settle for a moment. Everything you have ever looked at, every star you've ever wished on, every galaxy in every photograph you've ever admired, all of it together adds up to only a small fraction of the stuff the universe is actually made of. The rest, the overwhelming majority of it, is invisible. It's there. It's all around us. It shapes everything. But it gives off no light of its own, and it doesn't reflect any either. And so to our eyes, and even to our most powerful telescopes, it simply isn't there at all. We only know about it because of the way everything else moves around it, like footprints in fresh snow, telling you someone walked by, even when the person is nowhere to be seen. I find that idea strangely peaceful, if I'm honest with you. There's something calming about the notion that the universe is mostly hidden, that so much of what holds the cosmos together is quiet and dark and unbothered by whether we notice it or not. It doesn't need our telescopes. It doesn't need our equations. It was doing its gentle, invisible work for billions of years before anyone on this small blue planet ever thought to wonder about it. And it'll go on doing that same quiet work long after all of us are asleep. Now, I want to be clear about something, because it matters for how relaxing this is going to be. We are not going to turn this into a lecture. I'm not going to throw a pile of numbers at you, or ask you to remember anything, or make you feel like you've wandered into a classroom by mistake. This isn't that kind of night. If anything, dark matter is the perfect bedtime companion precisely because nobody, not even the cleverest scientist in the world, fully understands it. It's one of the biggest open questions we have. A genuine mystery. And there's a real comfort in mysteries when you let yourself lean into them instead of straining to solve them. Think about it this way. When you were a child and you lay in bed at night, you didn't need to understand how the stars worked in order to feel soothed by them. You just looked up, and there they were. And something about all that quiet distance made the world feel large and safe at the same time. Dark matter is a bit like that. You don't need to grasp every detail. You can just let the bigness of it wash over you, the way you'd let the sound of rain on a window carry you off to sleep. The not knowing is part of the gift. So here's what I'd like to offer you tonight. Over the next little while, I'm going to tell you the story of how we came to realize that most of the universe is missing. Not lost exactly, just hidden, out of view. I'll tell you about the people who first noticed that something didn't quite add up. The quiet observers who looked at the way stars and galaxies were moving and thought, hold on, there's more here than meets the eye. There must be. Something we can't see is tugging on the things we can. And I'll tell you, gently, about what that invisible something might be, and why, after all these years, it still keeps its secrets so well. But we'll get to all of that slowly. There's absolutely no hurry. If we only make it a little way into the story before you fall asleep, then that's a wonderful thing. And the rest will still be here, waiting patiently, whenever you'd like to come back to it. Nothing in the cosmos is going anywhere. The dark matter has waited billions of years already. It can certainly wait for you. For now, let's just breathe for a second. Wherever you are, feel the weight of your body against the bed, or the couch, or the chair. Feel how the ground beneath you is holding you up, steadily, without any effort at all. That holding, that quiet, invisible pull that keeps you resting where you are, that's gravity. And gravity, as it happens, is our very first clue in this whole story. Because everything we know about dark matter, everything we've ever guessed about it, comes down to gravity. The gentle, patient force that holds you to your bed tonight is the very same force that first revealed that the universe was hiding something from us. Isn't that a nice thought to rest on? The same soft pull that's keeping you cozy and grounded right now is woven into the largest mystery in all of science. You're not separate from any of this. You're part of it. You're made of the same stuff as the stars, cradled by the same forces that shape whole galaxies. And tonight, all you have to do is lie here and listen while I tell you the story of it. So let your shoulders drop a little further. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands go loose and heavy. There's nothing to figure out, nothing to hold on to. Just the sound of my voice and the slow unfolding of something vast and ancient and beautifully, comfortingly mysterious. We'll begin very soon with a night sky much like the one outside your window right now. We'll begin with people looking up, the way people have always looked up, and slowly, quietly, coming to suspect that the darkness between the stars was not empty at all, that it was full of something they couldn't name, couldn't see, couldn't hold, something that made up the greater part of everything. But not yet, not just this moment. For now, let's simply sit together in the quiet, you and I, at the very start of the story. Let yourself grow heavier and warmer with each slow breath. There's a whole invisible universe out there, holding everything together so gently that you never even have to think about it. And tonight, you get to drift off knowing that it's all being taken care of, out there in the dark, exactly as it always has been. So settle in. Get as comfortable as you possibly can. Let the day you had, whatever kind of day it was, begin to loosen its grip and slip away behind you. It's done now. It's finished. You did enough. And here, in this soft little pocket of the night, all that's left is to rest and to listen and to let yourself be carried ever so slowly towards sleep. We're going to take our time with all of this, and I'll be right here with you, my voice low and steady, as we begin to wander out into that great, dark, missing universe together. There's no better place to lose yourself for a while, and there's no better time than now. Just as your eyes grow heavy and the world goes quiet, to begin. Let me take you back then, a very long way back, to a time before anyone had a telescope, before anyone had a name for any of this. Picture the world as it was for almost all of human history. No streetlights, no glowing screens, no hum of electricity anywhere. When the sun went down, the dark that came was a real dark, the kind most of us have honestly never seen in our whole lives. And into that dark, night after night, came the stars. Thousands of them. More than you could ever count, spilled across the sky like sugar on a black table. People lived under that sky the way we live under a roof. It was just there, always, part of the furniture of being alive. and they watched it. They couldn't help but watch it. Whole lifetimes were spent noticing how the stars wheeled slowly overhead through the night, how they shifted with the seasons, how certain bright ones wandered against the others in their own patient paths. There was no rush to any of it. There was nothing to do but look and wonder and slowly begin to make sense of what they were seeing. And here's the thing that I find so lovely to sit with. For all those thousands of years, everyone assumed that what they could see was, more or less, all there was. Why wouldn't they? The sky gave itself to them freely. The stars were right there, plain as anything. The idea that most of the universe might be completely invisible, that the greater part of everything might be hiding just out of reach, would have sounded like nonsense. Like saying most of the ocean is made of something that isn't water. You look up, you see the stars, you see the moon, and that's the cosmos. That's the whole show. What more could there possibly be? So let yourself rest in that older, simpler picture for a moment, because it's a comforting one. A universe you could take in with your own two eyes. A universe that felt complete. There's something almost tender about it. The way a child believes the walls of their bedroom are the edge of the world. And for a very long time, we were all a little like that child, cozy inside a cosmos we thought we understood, never once suspecting how much was waiting quietly in the dark, beyond what we could see. Now, the people who watched those ancient skies weren't foolish. Not at all. They were sharp and careful and endlessly curious. They figured out how to predict the seasons from the stars. They learned to cross open ocean by them, with nothing but the patterns overhead to guide them home. They noticed that a handful of those bright points didn't stay put like the others, that they drifted slowly in loops and curves, and they called those wanderers the planets. They built great stone circles and towers just to catch the sun on a single special morning of the year. All of this, mind you, with their eyes alone. No lenses, no instruments, just patience, and the sky, and the slow accumulation of noticing, one generation handing what it learned down to the next. I think there's a real gentleness in imagining all those people, over all those centuries, lying back on hillsides and rooftops and the decks of little wooden ships, doing exactly what you're doing right now. Resting, looking up, or in your case, drifting down into sleep. Letting the vastness of it wash over them without needing to solve it all at once. You're part of a very long line of people who have done this, who have felt small and safe under the same sky. And that sky hasn't changed nearly as much as you might think. The very same stars that watched over them are watching over you tonight. But slowly, ever so slowly, something began to shift. And it began, as these things often do, with people asking why. Why do the planets wander the way they do? Why does the moon swell and shrink each month? Why does everything up there move in the patterns it moves in, and not some other way? For the longest time, the answers people reached for were stories, beautiful ones, full of gods and chariots and great turning spheres of crystal. And those stories did a job. They made the sky feel less lonely. They gave the movements a meaning, but they didn't quite explain the how of it. They didn't tell you what was actually holding it all together. That question, the how of it, is where our real story slowly starts to stir. Because eventually, after all those centuries of watching, a few people began to suspect that the same rules might apply up there in the heavens as down here on the ground. That the sky wasn't a separate magical realm with its own laws, but part of the same single world we live in, obeying the same quiet principles. And that idea, simple as it sounds now, was one of the most enormous shifts in the whole history of how we understand where we are. Think about what that really means for a second, softly, without straining at it. It means that whatever makes an apple fall from a branch might be the very same thing that keeps the moon circling the earth. That the pull holding you gently against your bed right now might be, in its deepest nature, identical to the pull that swings whole planets around the sun. One force, the same force, working here in your bedroom and out there across unimaginable distances, all at once, all the time, without ever growing tired or taking a night off. We call that force gravity, of course. You've known the word your whole life. It's such an ordinary word that we hardly ever stop to feel how strange and wonderful the thing itself is. Gravity is the reason there are stars at all. It's the reason great clouds of gas, drifting in the dark, slowly gather themselves together over millions of years until they grow dense and hot enough to catch fire and begin to shine. It's the reason those stars then gather into galaxies, vast pinwheels of light turning so slowly that a single turn can take hundreds of millions of years. Everything up there, every structure, every glowing thing was built by gravity, patiently, over spans of time so long they almost stop meaning anything. And it's such a gentle force, really, when you meet it up close. You don't feel crushed by it. You don't feel gripped. You just feel held. That soft, constant, downward settling that lets you sink into your mattress and stay there. Gravity never grabs. It only draws slowly and steadily, the way the tide draws the water up the beach, the way sleep is drawing you down right now, a little further with every breath. There's no violence in it, just a quiet, endless invitation to come to rest. So the people who first understood gravity properly had this astonishing new tool in their hands. For the first time, they could look up at a moon or a planet or a distant point of light, and they could actually do the sums. They could say, if that thing is moving in that path at that speed, then it must be feeling this much pull, and therefore there must be this much stuff over there, tugging on it. They could weigh the heavens, they could stand on the earth, and, with nothing but careful thought and careful measurement, work out how heavy far-off things must be, just from watching how they moved. Isn't that a remarkable thing to drift off thinking about? That you can weigh something you can never touch, something impossibly far away, just by watching how it dances, just by measuring the pull. It's a little like knowing there's a strong swimmer beneath the surface of a still lake, not because you can see them, but because you can see the ripples spreading out. You never glimpse the swimmer at all, and yet you know from the ripples alone that something is down there, moving. Hold on to that image gently, because it turns out to be the very heart of our whole story, even though we're still a long way from getting there. The idea that you can know something is present, that you can even measure how much of it there is, purely from the gravity it gives off, purely from the way it tugs on the things around it. You never have to see it. You never have to catch a single ray of light from it. You just have to watch, carefully, patiently, the way those ancient people watched, and let the movements tell you their secret. For now, though, we're still in the calm early days of the story. when the sky still seemed to add up, when you could look at a star, work out its pull, and everything matched. The light you saw and the gravity you measured told the same tidy tale. There was no mystery yet, no missing piece, no strange gap between what should be there and what actually was. The universe balanced its own books, and everyone could sleep soundly, thinking they had the measure of things. And I want you to enjoy that feeling of things balancing, of things adding up, because it's a restful place to be. Let your mind settle into it, like settling into warm water. For most of human history, the cosmos made a kind of comfortable sense. It was smaller than we now know it to be, and simpler, and it fit inside our understanding like a hand fits inside a glove. There was the earth beneath your feet. There was the sky above with its stars and its wandering planets. There was the gentle force that held it all in its slow, dependable turning. And that was, as far as anyone could tell, the whole of everything. But you and I both know, resting here in the dark together, that the story doesn't end in that tidy place. Something was waiting. Something enormous and silent and patient, out there in the spaces between the stars, in the dark that everyone assumed was simply empty. And the funny thing, the thing I love most about all of this, is that when we finally began to notice it, we noticed it in exactly the way I've just been describing. Not by seeing it, never by seeing it, but by watching how things moved, and slowly realizing that the movements didn't quite add up after all. That something unseen was tugging, gently but unmistakably, on everything we could see. We won't rush toward that realization tonight, though. There's no need. The whole point of resting is that you don't have to reach the end of anything. You can let the story unfold at its own slow pace, the way the sky itself unfolds across a whole long night. And if you drift off somewhere in the middle of it, that's not a failure of any kind. That's exactly what's meant to happen. The dark matter will keep. The story will keep. It's been keeping for billions of years, and it'll happily wait a little longer for you. So let's stay, just a while more, under that ancient, honest sky, before anyone suspected a thing. Feel yourself lying back on the grass of some hillside long ago, the earth still warm beneath you from the day's sun, the whole glittering ceiling of stars turning so slowly above you that you'd have to lie perfectly still for hours just to catch it moving. There's nowhere to be, nothing to solve, just the enormous, quiet sky and the soft weight of your own body sinking down towards sleep, held in place by that same patient pull that holds the moon on its path. Breathe in slowly and let it go, just as slowly. Feel how each breath is a little deeper than the last, a little easier, as though your body is remembering, all on its own, how to let go. That's all you have to do now. That's the only task left in your whole day, to breathe and to sink and to listen, while the story gathers itself quietly in the background, waiting to carry you the rest of the way down, because soon enough, though not just yet, our patient watchers of the sky are going to notice their first small puzzle. A tiny thing at first, a wobble that shouldn't be there, a pull coming from somewhere it shouldn't. Nothing alarming, nothing sharp, just a gentle little question mark hanging in the dark. The very first faint hint that the universe held more than met the eye. And from that one small question, everything else would eventually unfold. But that's for a little later. For right now, in this soft and quiet moment, there's nothing missing at all. There's only you and the dark and the slow, steady turning of a sky that's watched over sleeping people since the very beginning. Let it watch over you now. Let yourself grow heavier and warmer and further away, drifting out gently past the edge of the day, toward the deep and easy rest that's been waiting for you all along. And here we are still, you and I, held under that same old sky. And there's no hurry to move on from it just yet. Let's linger a little longer in those early days, back when the whole universe still seemed to fit neatly inside what a person could see, because there's something worth savoring there, something soft and reassuring before any of the mysteries start to stir. The idea that everything is accounted for. The idea that what you see is what you get. It's a comforting thought to sink into, isn't it? Even if, as we'll discover much later, it turns out not to be quite true. For now, though, let it be true. Let the sky be simple. Let it be nothing more than a great dark bowl turned over the world, sprinkled with points of light, turning slowly through the night the way it always has. You don't need to know what any of it is. The people lying under it long ago didn't know either, and they slept just fine. Better than fine, probably. They slept the deep, untroubled sleep of people who had no screens to stare at, no clocks ticking in the next room, nothing to do once the sun went down, but let the darkness gather them up and carry them off. I want you to imagine that kind of sleep tonight. The old kind. The kind that comes on slowly, like a tide coming in, one gentle wave at a time. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to earn it. You just have to lie here and breathe and let each moment be a little softer than the one before. So let's keep telling the story, quietly, the way you'd murmur something to someone who's already half asleep. Because those early sky watchers, the ones with no telescopes and no instruments and nothing but their own patient eyes, they were doing something rather wonderful, even if they didn't fully know it. They were paying attention, night after night, year after year. They watched the same lights move across the same dark sky. And slowly, ever so slowly, they began to notice patterns. The way certain stars always rose in the same place. The way the moon swelled and thinned on a schedule you could count on. The way a handful of brighter lights, the ones we now call planets, wandered against the fixed background in loops and curves that seemed, at first, to make no sense at all. And here's the thing I find so lovely about it. They didn't need to understand any of it to find it beautiful. The understanding came later, much later, and it came in little pieces, handed down from one careful watcher to the next, across hundreds and hundreds of years. Somebody would notice a small thing. They'd pass it along. Somebody else would add another small thing to it. And bit by bit, without anyone rushing, a picture began to form. A picture of a sky that wasn't random at all, but ordered and rhythmic, and quietly obedient to rules nobody had yet named. Feel how gentle that process was. There was no single flash of genius, no one moment where everything suddenly made sense. Just a long, slow accumulation of noticing. A whole chain of quiet people, each adding their small observation to the pile, none of them ever seeing the finished picture. And that's a soothing thought too, when you sit with it, that you don't have to figure everything out yourself, that you can add your one small piece and pass it on, and trust that the rest will be worked out by others in their own time, long after you've drifted off. Let your shoulders drop a little further as you think about that. Let the back of your neck soften. There's nothing you need to solve tonight either. You're just one more person, lying under the same sky those watchers lay under, letting the vastness of it hold you gently in place. Now, one of the things those early people noticed, and it's a simple thing, but it matters for where our story is going, is that the lights in the sky didn't all behave the same way. Most of them, the ordinary stars, held their positions faithfully, night after night, moving together as though they were painted onto the inside of that great turning bowl. But a few of them refused to stay put. A few of them wandered, and it was those wanderers, those restless little lights, that gave people the first real puzzle to chew on. Why would some lights hold still while others roamed? What made those few so different from all the rest? They didn't have the answer, of course, not for a very long time. But they held the question. They carried it with them, generation after generation, and they kept watching, and they kept wondering. And I think there's something almost tender about that, about a question being passed down like a family heirloom, from grandparent to grandchild, across so many lifetimes, that the people who first asked it and the people who finally answered it never got to meet. They were all part of the same long conversation, stretched out across the centuries, and none of them ever heard the whole thing. You're part of that conversation too, in a way. Just by lying here, wondering, letting your mind drift up toward those same old lights. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to add anything. You can just listen and let the wondering carry you gently downward towards sleep. Let's slow the breathing down a little more now. Breathe in, softly, for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And let it out, even more slowly, releasing everything the day left behind. Feel your body growing heavier against whatever's beneath you. Feel the warmth pooling in your hands, in your feet, spreading up through your arms and legs like something warm poured slowly into a glass. There's nowhere to be, nothing to reach, just this quiet unspooling of the story and the soft downward pull of your own tiredness, which is really nothing more than your body doing exactly what it was built to do. Now, one thing worth understanding, gently, as we go, is just how patient this kind of watching had to be, because the sky doesn't give up its secrets quickly. A planet might take months to trace out its strange little loop against the stars. Some of the slower ones take years to make their way all the way around. So to notice the patterns at all, you had to watch and keep watching. Long past the point where most people would lose interest, you had to come back to the same patch of sky, night after night, and write down where each light was, and compare it to where it had been, and do this steadily, without skipping, for longer than you might think a person could bear. And yet people did it, all over the world, in every culture that ever looked up. Somebody was keeping those records, marking the positions, counting the days, building up, slowly, the raw material that everything else would one day be built from. They didn't know what they were building toward. They couldn't have. They were just faithful to the sky, in the way you might be faithful to a garden, tending it a little each day, without expecting it to bloom all at once. I love imagining those long nights of patient watching. Someone wrapped in a blanket against the cold, sitting very still, eyes lifted to the dark, tracking one small light as it inched its way across the hours. No noise, no rush, just the slow turn of the heavens, and the quiet scratch of a record being kept. It's about the most peaceful image I can conjure, and I offer it to you now as something to rest your mind on. That stillness, that patience, that willingness to simply watch and wait and trust that meaning would come in its own good time. Let that be your posture tonight, too. Not watching the sky exactly, but watching the soft dark behind your own closed eyes. Letting the thoughts drift by without chasing any of them. Trusting that sleep will come in its own good time. It always does, you know. You don't have to summon it. You only have to stop standing in its way. And so, over all those long centuries of patient watching, the picture of the sky grew richer and more detailed. But it stayed, in one important sense, simple, because everyone still assumed that the lights they were tracking were all there was. The wanderers, the fixed stars, the moon, the sun. A finite collection of visible things, moving through an otherwise empty dark. The darkness between the lights was just that, to them. Emptiness, backdrop, the plain black canvas that the interesting things were painted onto. Nobody thought to ask whether the darkness itself might be hiding something. Why would they? It was empty. Anyone could see that it was empty. There was nothing there. And that, quietly, gently, is the assumption that our whole story is eventually going to overturn. Not tonight, not for a good while yet, but it's worth planting the little seed of it now softly, so it can sit in the back of your mind as you drift. The idea that the emptiness might not be empty, that the dark between the stars, the part everyone ignored, the part that seemed like nothing at all, might actually be where most of everything is hiding. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, and there's no need for that. That realization took humanity thousands of years to stumble into, and we can afford to take our time reaching it too. For now, let's stay right here in the simple sky, where the dark is just dark and the lights are all there is. It's a restful place to be. There's a kind of innocence to it, a sweetness, like the way the world looks to a child who hasn't yet learned how big and strange it really is. Rest in that sweetness for a moment. Let the universe be small and knowable and close. Let it be nothing more than what you can see. You can pick up the larger mysteries some other night, when you're rested and ready. Right now, all that's asked of you is to keep breathing, slow and soft, and to let yourself sink a little deeper with every breath you let go. Feel the weight of your eyelids. Notice how they'd rather be closed than open, how they keep wanting to drift shut, and let them. There's no reason to hold them up anymore. The day is over. The watching can stop. You've done everything you needed to do, and now the only thing left is to let go. Gently, the way those old sky watchers eventually let go each night, laying down their records and turning into sleep beneath the very lights they'd spent so long observing. They slept well, those watchers. I'm sure of it. There's a particular kind of rest that comes to people who've spent their day in quiet, patient attention to something larger than themselves. A settled kind of tiredness. A good tiredness, and that's the kind I hope is gathering in you now. Slowly, softly, as the story keeps unfolding in the background, and your own thoughts grow slower and further apart. So let's keep drifting together, you and I, through these calm early pages, in no hurry to reach whatever comes next. The sky is turning. The lights are moving in their old, faithful patterns, and somewhere out there in the dark that everyone believed was empty, the great silent thing we'll eventually come to know is waiting, patiently, without the slightest need to be noticed just yet. It has waited a very long time already. It can wait a little longer, while you let yourself sink the rest of the way down into the soft and welcoming dark. And so the centuries kept turning, the way they do, slow and unhurried. And eventually, something new arrived on the scene. A piece of glass. That's really all it was at first. A curved little lens, ground and polished by patient hands, held up to the eye at just the right distance from another one. And suddenly, the sky that everyone had been staring at for all those thousands of years cracked open, just a little, and let people see further than they ever had before. I love thinking about that first moment. Imagine being one of the very first people to point one of those early telescopes up at the night. You'd spent your whole life believing the sky was a fixed and finished thing, a handful of lights you already knew by name. And then you lift this little tube to your eye, and where there had been one faint smudge, there are now dozens of stars. Where there had been empty black, there's suddenly more. The universe, in that instant, got quietly, wonderfully bigger. And it kept getting bigger every single time someone built a better lens. There's no need to feel any rush about this. Let the discovery unfold in you as slowly as it unfolded in them, over lifetimes, over generations of people leaning into the dark and squinting through their little windows of glass. Because that's really how it happened. Nobody woke up one morning and understood the whole sky. It came in tiny pieces, a little more light each year, a little more detail, a little more of the emptiness turning out not to be quite so empty after all. And here's something soft and lovely to rest on. When those first observers looked at the planets through their new lenses, the planets stopped being simple points of light. Jupiter turned into a little disk with its own tiny moon circling it, 4 faithful specks going round and round, exactly the way our own moon goes round us. Think about what that must have felt like, to realize that our world wasn't the only one with something orbiting it, that the same patient dance was happening out there, far away, around another world entirely, whether anyone was watching or not. That's one of those quiet ideas that changes everything without any noise at all, because it meant the rules up there might be the same rules as the rules down here. That the sky wasn't a separate magical realm with its own special laws, but simply more of the same universe we were already standing in. The heavens and the earth, which everyone had always kept carefully apart in their minds, were starting, ever so gently, to become one single thing. Let that settle over you like a warm blanket being drawn up to your chin. One universe, the same everywhere. The same rules holding the moon in its path as hold the apple to the branch, and eventually holding you softly against your mattress right now. There's something deeply restful in that, I think. The idea that you belong to the same set of quiet rules as the farthest star. That nothing out there is truly foreign. It's all just home, stretched out very, very far. Now, as the telescopes got better and the records got longer, the watchers of the sky started to do something that would have seemed almost impossible to their ancestors. They began to predict. Not just to describe what the sky had done, but to say ahead of time what it was going to do. Where a planet would be next month, when the moon would slip in front of the sun, when a particular wandering light would reappear from behind the glare after vanishing for a season. And astonishingly, beautifully, the predictions came true. The sky did what the mathematics said it would do. Just imagine the calm confidence that must have grown from that. For the first time in all of human history, people could look up and feel, not that the sky was a mystery to be feared, but that it was something they were coming to understand, something orderly, something trustworthy. The universe was keeping its appointments, showing up on time, night after night, exactly where the numbers said it should be. And that reliability, that faithfulness, is a genuinely soothing thing to drift off thinking about. There was a man, and I'll only mention him lightly, because names aren't really what matters here on a night like this, who worked out the shape of the paths the planets take. Not perfect circles, as everyone had always assumed, but gentle ovals, stretched just slightly, so that each planet swings a little closer to the sun and then a little further away as it goes around. And he found that they speed up when they're near and slow down when they're far, in a rhythm so precise you could set a clock by it. A cosmic tide, breathing in and breathing out, over years and decades and centuries. Isn't that a soft image to hold? Whole worlds, swinging slowly closer and then slowly further, speeding and easing, speeding and easing, in a rhythm that never breaks and never tires. There's something almost like breathing in it. In fact, it isn't so different from the breath moving through you right now, slow and even, in and out, closer and further, following its own quiet law without you having to think about it at all. And then came the piece that ties it all together, the idea we touched on a little while ago and let drift away again. Gravity, the realization that all of these motions, the planets on their gentle ovals, the moons circling their worlds, the speeding and the slowing, could all be explained by a single, invisible pull. One force. The same force that holds you down, reaching out across unimaginable distances of empty space to keep the planets swinging around the sun. Nobody could see it. Nobody could touch it, but you could measure exactly what it did. And once you understood it, the whole sky suddenly made sense in a way it never had before. This is worth lingering on softly as your thoughts grow slow. Because for the first time, humanity had a rule that seemed to work everywhere. Drop a stone and gravity pulls it down. Watch the moon, and the very same gravity holds it in its orbit. The exact same equation, the same simple relationship, describing something in your own hand and something 250,000 miles away in the sky. That's a staggering thing when you really sit with it. And yet it's also, in its way, incredibly comforting. One rule, holding everything, everywhere, always. And it worked so well. That's the part I want you to carry into sleep with you tonight. Gently, without any weight to it. It worked so beautifully well. Astronomers could take the law of gravity and the positions of the planets, and they could calculate the future of the whole solar system. They could predict eclipses years in advance. They could send their numbers out ahead of the sky and watch the sky obediently catch up. For a long, contented stretch of history, it truly seemed as though the universe had been solved, as though all the big questions had answers now, and the only work left was to sharpen the details. There's a peacefulness in that moment of history that I find genuinely lovely. A whole community of thoughtful people looking up at a sky that finally seemed to add up. No loose ends that troubled them too deeply. No great gaps in the picture. Just a clean, elegant machine of worlds and moons and sunlight, turning according to a law they understood, predictable and calm and complete. If you'd asked them, many would have told you the universe was nearly finished being figured out. And of course, that's exactly the kind of moment when the universe likes to clear its throat, very quietly, and mention that there might be one or two things left to notice. But we're not there yet. We're nowhere near there yet, and there's no reason to hurry toward it. Tonight, we get to stay in the calm, in the golden late afternoon of that old certainty, when gravity explained everything, and the planets kept their appointments, and the sky was a solved and settled thing. So let yourself rest there with them, those confident, contented sky watchers, in the comfortable belief that the world made sense. It's a good place to be. It's a warm place to be. There's a particular kind of ease that comes from feeling like the big picture is understood, like everything has its place and its explanation, and you don't have to hold any of it yourself. You can just lie back and let the great clockwork turn overhead, ticking softly through its ancient, faithful motions, while you sink deeper and deeper into the quiet. Notice how much slower your thoughts are moving now, compared to when we started. How they drift instead of dart. How one idea softens into the next without any sharp edges between them. The way the planets ease from near to far without ever jolting. That's your mind doing exactly what it's supposed to do at this hour, letting go of the effort of holding things together. Trusting the way those old astronomers trusted their sky, that everything will still be there in its right place when the morning comes. And it will be. The story will be here. The great silent thing waiting out in the dark will still be waiting, patient as ever, in no hurry at all. Nothing you leave unfinished tonight will be lost. That's one of the gentlest things about a story like this one. You can set it down anywhere, mid-sentence, mid-thought, and it simply pauses and waits, holding your place for you until you're rested and ready to wander back. Before I let my voice go soft and low again and carry you the rest of the way down, let me leave one small thing with you, the way I like to. If somewhere in these quiet minutes, a thought has floated up in you, a question about the sky, a memory of a night you spent looking up, a place where you first felt small under all those stars, I'd genuinely love for you to leave it in the comments whenever you wake. I read them slowly, the way we've been doing everything tonight. And there's something lovely about a whole gathering of sleepy people sharing the things they wonder about in the dark. You never have to, of course, but the invitation's always there, waiting as patiently as the story itself. For now, though, there's nothing left to do and nowhere left to be. The lenses have been polished, the numbers have been worked out. The planets are swinging faithfully through their gentle ovals overhead, and the whole calm machinery of the old, understood universe is turning quietly on, without needing a single thing from you. So let it turn. Let it carry you. Breathe out, slow and soft, and let yourself drift a little further into the warm and welcoming dark, where the story keeps unfolding, gently, whether you're awake to follow it or not. So let's drift onward, softly, the way a river carries a leaf without ever seeming to try. Because the story doesn't stop at the planets, even though the planets felt, for a good long while, like the whole of it. There came a point, gently, over many quiet generations, when the sky watchers began to lift their gaze a little higher, a little further out, past the wandering planets and toward the fixed stars themselves. And that, in its own unhurried way, is where the next part of our story begins to breathe. Here's the thing about those stars. For the longest time, people had treated them almost like decoration, like little nail heads hammered into the dome of the night. All of them the same, all of them equally far away. It was a simple picture, and there's a real comfort in a simple picture. But as the lenses got better and the patience got deeper, the watchers slowly realized that the stars weren't all sitting at the same distance at all. Some were near, some were unimaginably far. The sky wasn't a flat ceiling after all. It had depth. It went back and back and back, further than anyone had ever let themselves imagine. Let that idea settle in you, softly, the way dusk settles over a field. The sky isn't a lid on the world. It's an opening. And every one of those little points of light is a sun in its own right. Some of them larger than ours, some smaller, each one burning away quietly in its own corner of the dark. Most of them so far off that the light you're seeing left them long before you were born. There's something wonderfully calming in that, I think. You're looking at the past every single time you look up. The night sky is a kind of gentle museum, and you wander through it just by lying still and letting your eyes rest on it. And once the watchers understood that the stars had distance, that they were spread out through a vast and open space, a new and quiet question began to form. If the planets circle the sun, held in place by that same soft pull we talked about, then what holds the stars? What keeps all of them from simply drifting apart, scattering off into the emptiness like sparks off a fire? And slowly, patiently, over lifetimes of careful looking, an answer began to take shape. The stars weren't scattered randomly at all. They belonged to something. They were gathered together, held together, all of them turning slowly around a shared center in one enormous, glittering family. We call that family a galaxy, our galaxy. The great soft band of light you can sometimes see arching across a truly dark sky on a night far from any town is simply our galaxy seen edge on from the inside. All those countless stars, so many of them and so far away that they blur together into a river of pale light. Our own sun is just one of them, one quiet member of a family of hundreds of billions, all of us turning together, slowly, patiently, around a center so distant it takes light itself tens of thousands of years to travel from there to here. Isn't that a gentle thing to hold as you lie there in the dark? You're not just on a planet circling a star. You're on a planet circling a star that is itself drifting in a slow, majestic circle around the heart of a galaxy, carried along in a turning so vast and so unhurried that a single loop takes something like 230 million years. Our sun has only made that journey a handful of times in its whole long life. You are moving, right now, faster than you could ever feel. And yet it feels like nothing at all. It feels like stillness. It feels like rest. That's the great kindness of it. The bigger the motion, the calmer it seems. Now, the watchers who first understood all this, the ones who slowly pieced together that we lived inside a great spinning wheel of stars, they were carrying with them the same beautiful tool we talked about before. The ability to weigh things they could never touch. Just by watching how something moves, they could work out how much stuff must be there to move it. they'd done it with the planets. They'd weighed the sun by watching the world swing around it. And so, quite naturally, they began to wonder whether they could do the very same thing with the galaxy itself. Could you weigh a whole galaxy simply by watching the way it turns? It's a lovely, ambitious sort of question, and I want you to notice how far we've come, gently, without any strain. We started with people lying on hillsides, naming the patterns of the stars. Then came the little windows of glass, and the planets swelled into worlds. Then came the quiet understanding of that soft pull holding everything in its place. And now, here we are with people calmly proposing to place an entire galaxy on the scales. Hundreds of billions of stars, weighed all at once, by nothing more than patient watching and careful sums. It's the same simple idea, grown enormous. Watch how something moves, and you can learn how heavy it is. So they set about it, and here's where the story starts to lean, ever so softly, toward the mystery we've been circling all this time. Though we're still going to take it slowly, still going to let it unfold at the pace of a long, drowsy evening. Because when they looked at how the galaxy turns, they expected it to behave a certain way. They already knew the rules. They'd learned them from the planets, and the planets had never once let them down. Out in our own little solar system, the worlds closest to the sun move quickly, and the worlds further out move more slowly. That's just how it goes when a central weight holds everything in place. The near ones hurry, the far ones dawdle. Our innermost neighbor races around the sun in a matter of weeks, while the distant, frozen worlds at the outer edge take the better part of a human lifetime to complete a single loop. That pattern felt as solid as anything in all of science. Closer means faster, further means slower. It had been measured and checked and measured again, and it held true every single time. So when the watchers turned their attention to the galaxy, they naturally expected the same tidy arrangement. The stars near the crowded, brilliant center should whirl around quickly, and the stars way out at the lonely edges, far from the bulk of all that gathered weight, should drift around slowly, lazily, the way a distant planet dawdles through its long, cold year. And I want you to hold that expectation gently, without any tension in it at all, because there's no hurry to find out how it turns out. Tonight, we can simply rest in the reasonableness of it. Of course, the outer stars should move slower. It follows from everything they knew. It followed from everything that had ever worked. There was no reason on earth to expect anything else. The universe had been so faithful, so obedient, so willing to add up, that it never occurred to anyone the galaxy might not play by the very same rules the planets did. That's the sweet spot we get to linger in tonight. The moment right before the surprise, when everyone still believed the answer was already known. When weighing a galaxy seemed like it would just confirm what everybody already understood. It's a bit like knowing the ending of a familiar, comforting story and settling in to hear it told again anyway, because the knowing is part of the comfort. Except, of course, that this time the ending was going to be different from the one everyone expected. But we don't need that yet. We can let it wait, patiently, out there in the dark, the way it's always waited. Let me tell you, instead, about the calm confidence of those years, because there's something restful in it. This was a time when astronomy felt, in many ways, almost finished. The great structure had been built. The sun sat at the center of its family of worlds. And every one of those worlds moved exactly as the equation said it should. The stars had been sorted into their distances. The shape of our galaxy was slowly being mapped. A great flattened disk of light with a bright swelling in the middle and long, lazy arms winding outward. And beyond even that, the watchers were beginning to suspect, softly, that those faint smudges of light they sometimes saw through their telescopes, the little fuzzy patches that didn't behave like ordinary stars, might be other galaxies entirely, whole other islands of hundreds of billions of stars, unthinkably far away, drifting in an ocean of darkness so vast it makes the mind go quiet just to picture it. Sit with that for a moment, gently. Not one galaxy, but many. Not hundreds or thousands, but numbers that stop meaning anything the moment you try to hold them. Every faint smudge a whole universe of suns, each one with its own slow turning, its own great wheel of light spinning patiently in the dark. And here we are, on one small world, circling one ordinary star, near the quiet edge of just one of those countless wheels, looking out across all of it, and somehow, remarkably, beginning to understand it. There's a humility in that which I find deeply soothing. We're so small, and yet we've come to know so much. Both things are true at once, and holding them together is one of the most peaceful feelings I know. And through it all, that same simple tool kept doing its patient work. Watch how something moves, and you learn how much is there. It had weighed the moon. It had weighed the sun. It was reaching now for the galaxies themselves. And every step of the way, it had been trustworthy, faithful, exact. The watchers had every reason to believe it would keep on being so. They had built a universe that made sense, brick by careful brick, and each new brick had fit the ones before it perfectly. Why would the next one be any different? So let's leave them there, for now, in that golden stretch of certainty, mapping the great wheel of our galaxy and beginning to glimpse the other wheels beyond it, all of them assumed to be turning by the same gentle rules that had never once failed. The scales were ready. The stars were waiting to be weighed, and nobody yet suspected that the answer, when it finally came, would be so strange, so quietly impossible, that it would send them all the way back to the beginning to ask what a universe is even made of. But that's a thread for another night, or another few minutes, whenever you feel like following it. For right now, there's nothing to solve and nothing to expect. There's only the slow, faithful turning of everything overhead. The sun carrying us in its long loop around the galaxy's distant heart. The galaxy itself drifting through the dark among its countless silent neighbors. All of it moving so vastly and so gently that it feels, from where you're lying, exactly like stillness, like rest, like the deepest and safest kind of quiet. And you're part of it, not separate from all that turning, but woven right into it, carried along by the very same soft pull that keeps the stars in their great slow wheel. You don't have to do anything to belong to it. You already do. You always have. So let that be enough for now. Let the galaxy turn. Let the far stars drift through their long, unhurried orbits. Let the whole enormous, patient machinery of the heavens carry you a little further into sleep, the way it's carried everything else, gently, faithfully, for longer than any of us can imagine, and will go on carrying it long after tonight has softened into morning. So let's stay with that gentle picture a little longer, because there's something in it worth turning over slowly, the way you'd turn a smooth stone in your hand without really thinking about it. The people who first began to measure our galaxy weren't in any hurry either. They had a tool they trusted, that same patient tool we've been talking about all night. Watch how something moves, and you learn how much is there. And they set about pointing it at the great wheel of stars we live inside, asking it the same question they'd asked of the moon and the sun and the planets. How much? How heavy? How much stuff is really out there, holding all of this together? Now here's the lovely thing about how they went about it. You don't need to see every star to weigh a galaxy. You don't need to count them one by one, which would be impossible anyway, because there are hundreds of billions of them, more suns than you could name in 1,000 lifetimes. No, you can do something far gentler than that. You can watch how the whole thing turns, because a galaxy, remember, is spinning ever so slowly, like the grandest and most patient carousel you could ever imagine. The stars near the middle and the stars out toward the edge, and everything in between, all of it drifting around a common center, held there by the soft pull we've come back to again and again tonight. And if you can measure how fast those stars are moving as they go around, then the old, trustworthy rules will tell you how much mass must be hiding inside their orbits to keep them from flying away. Think about how elegant that is, softly, without straining at it. It's the same idea as before, just made enormous. When you weighed the sun, you watched how fast the Earth swung around it, and the speed told you the sun's weight. And now, when you want to weigh a galaxy, you watch how fast the stars swing around its heart, and the speed should tell you the galaxy's weight in just the same way. The tool doesn't change. It only grows. It had measured a single world circling a single star. Now it was reaching out to measure billions of stars circling one shared, distant center. And the watchers had every reason to believe it would work just as beautifully as it always had. And here is what they expected to find. And I want you to hold this expectation lightly, because it's the calm before the whole picture quietly rearranges itself. Though not tonight. Not yet. They expected the galaxy to behave a little like the solar system does. Out in our own neighborhood, the planets closest to the sun move quickly. Little Mercury races around in a tight, fast loop, while the distant cold worlds out past the frost line drift along so slowly that a single one of their years lasts longer than all of recorded human history. The pattern is simple, and it feels almost obvious once you know it. The farther out you go from the center, the slower things move. The pull weakens with distance, so the outer worlds don't need to travel as fast to stay in their long, lazy orbits. So the astronomers looked at the galaxy and thought, naturally, that the same gentle rule would hold. The stars near the crowded, bright center, where most of the light and most of the mass seem to be, ought to be sweeping around quickly. And the stars way out on the faint edges, in the thin and lonely outskirts, where the light thins away to almost nothing, ought to be dawdling along slowly, the way those distant, frozen planets dawdle around our sun. That was the sensible guess. That was what the whole trustworthy structure of everything they knew told them to expect. A galaxy that spun fast in the middle and slow at the rim, its motion fading out toward the edges just as smoothly as the starlight itself faded out. And you can feel, can't you, how reasonable that was? There's a real comfort in it. It's the kind of prediction that comes not from wild guessing, but from centuries of patient, careful building, each idea resting soundly on the one before it. They weren't reaching. They were simply carrying forward the same rules that had already weighed the moon and the sun, and mapped the paths of all the planets. Of course, the galaxy would obey them too. Why on earth would it not? Everything else always had. So let me tell you a little about the sort of measuring they had to do, because it's a quiet, painstaking kind of work, and there's something restful in imagining it. To learn how fast a star is moving toward you or away from you, you look very carefully at its light. It turns out that light carries a hidden signature in it, a kind of fingerprint. And when something is moving toward you, that fingerprint shifts ever so slightly one way. And when it's moving away, it shifts ever so slightly the other. It's a bit like the way the sound of a passing train changes its pitch as it goes by, sliding from high to low as it moves from coming toward you to going away. Light does something similar, only far subtler, and only visible to instruments patient enough and precise enough to catch it. So the watchers would gather the faint light of a distant star, spread it out, and read that tiny shift. And from it, they could tell how quickly that star was drifting along its slow path around the galaxy's center. One star at a time, then another, farther out, then another, farther still. Building up ever so gradually, a picture of how the whole great wheel was turning, from its blazing heart all the way out to its dim and delicate edges. It was the work of many nights, many people, many years. Nobody rushed it, because it couldn't be rushed. The galaxy gives up its secrets about as slowly as it turns, which is to say almost imperceptibly, over spans of time that dwarf any single human life. And I find something deeply soothing in that patience, if I'm honest with you. There's no urgency in it at all, just people, night after night, gathering a little more light, adding a little more certainty, filling in one more point on a graph that was slowly taking shape. They weren't looking for anything strange. They fully expected to confirm what they already believed. They thought they were simply dotting the last few points onto a curve everyone already knew the shape of, tidying up the picture, putting the final polish on a piece of understanding that felt essentially finished. The stars near the center, moving fast. The stars far out, moving slow. A neat, downward sloping line, sinking gently toward the edges. That's the answer they were reaching for. And every reason in the world told them that's the answer they get. Sit with the sweetness of that expectation for just a moment, softly, the way you'd sit with the last of the warmth from a fire that's burning low. Because this is the last stretch of that golden certainty we keep returning to. The long, calm afternoon of a science that thought it knew, more or less, how everything fit together. They had a universe that made sense. They had rules that had never failed. They had a tool they trusted completely, and a prediction that flowed naturally out of everything they'd already proven. From where they stood, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. There was only the quiet, satisfying work of measuring and confirming and setting one more brick neatly into a wall that had never once let them down. And notice, gently, how much of this whole story has been exactly that. People assuming the sky adds up and being right over and over again for a very long time. First with the planets, when the new lenses turned points of light into worlds with rhythms you could predict. Then with the sun, weighed by watching the Earth swing around it. Then with the stars, once people realized they weren't nailheads in a dome, but distant suns of their own. Then with the galaxy, the great family of all those suns, mapped and measured and understood as one turning whole. At every single step, the same modest tool had worked. At every step, the answer had been reasonable. At every step, the next brick had fit the last one perfectly. It had become almost a habit, that trust. And why wouldn't it? A thing that has been faithful 10,000 times earns the right to be trusted the 10,001st. So let's leave the measuring going on quietly in the background, the light being gathered, the tiny shifts being read, the points slowly appearing on the graph, one faint star at a time. Let's leave the astronomers in that long, contented certainty, fully expecting the outer stars to be drifting along slow and easy, the way all the rules said they should. There's no need to peek ahead tonight at what those points actually turned out to show. That's a thread for another evening, or another few minutes, whenever you feel like following it down. For right now, we can simply rest in the reasonableness of it, in the calm confidence of people who had built a beautiful, sensible universe and had no reason at all to think it would surprise them. And there's a real gift in resting there, I think, because so much of the time, we lie awake turning over the things we don't yet understand, the loose ends, the questions without answers, the parts of our own lives that don't seem to add up. But tonight, you don't have to solve any of it. Tonight, you get to borrow that old, comfortable certainty for a little while and lie back inside a universe that for these last few peaceful moments still makes perfect sense. The stars in their slow wheel, the galaxy turning as it should, the rules holding the way they always had. Nothing missing, nothing strange, just a great, patient machinery of light, doing exactly what everyone expected it to do. Feel how easy it is to let your thoughts move at that same unhurried pace. There's nowhere you need to get to. The measuring will go on whether you follow it or not. The graph will fill in, point by faint point, over years and years of patient nights. And none of it depends on you staying awake to watch. You can set it all down now, as gently as setting a book on the nightstand, knowing the story keeps its place, holding exactly where you left it, ready and waiting whenever you'd like to open it again. Because the beautiful thing about a story, this old and this slow, is that it never rushes you, and it never leaves. It waited thousands of years for anyone to notice the first small puzzle. It can certainly wait one more night for you. There's no chapter that closes if you drift off before the end, no door that shuts, no moment you'll miss. The galaxy will still be turning in the morning. The far stars will still be tracing their long, unhurried loops. And that quiet answer, the strange one, the one that sent everyone all the way back to the beginning to ask what a universe is even made of, will still be sitting there patiently, in no hurry at all to be understood. So let the astronomers keep their calm certainty a little longer. Let the outer stars keep drifting through their slow, expected paths. Let the whole gentle picture hold together, unbroken and complete, for these last soft moments before sleep. You've come a long way through this story tonight, from a time before anyone had a name for any of it, all the way out to the edge of a galaxy being weighed by the light of its own distant suns. And you did it without straining, without hurrying, just letting one quiet idea settle into the next. The way the night settles over a field, the way warm water settles around you when you finally lie back and let it hold your weight. There's nothing left to reach for now. The scales are ready. the stars are waiting to be weighed, and you, carried along on this once small world, near the quiet edge of one great turning wheel, get to simply lie here in the middle of all of it, part of the same slow motion, held by the same soft pull, needing to do nothing at all but breathe and rest, and let the vast and patient sky keep turning gently over you, the way it always has, the way it always will. And so, very gently, the measuring began, not all at once and not with any drama, but the way most real things happen in science, which is slowly, one careful night after another, one faint smudge of starlight at a time. The people doing this work weren't trying to overturn anything. They weren't looking for a mystery. They fully expected the galaxy to answer them the way it always had, the way everything up in that sky had answered for generations. They expected the numbers to line up, the way they'd lined up for the planets, the way they'd lined up for the moon. They were simply filling in the picture, adding detail to something they were already sure they understood. So picture them, if you like, out at their instruments through the long cold hours, gathering the light of stars near the middle of the galaxy first, in that bright and crowded heart where everything seems to glow. And when they measured how fast those inner stars were sweeping around, the answer came back just as they'd hoped. Quick and orderly, and exactly in keeping with all that mass piled up in the center. It fit. It fit beautifully. And I imagine there was a quiet satisfaction in that, the kind you feel when a thing you predicted turns out to be true. When the world nods back at you and says, "Yes, you understood me correctly." They could have stopped there in a way. They had every reason to feel that the story was more or less finished, that they were just adding the last few brushstrokes to a painting whose shape was already clear. But that's not how it went, because there were still all those other stars to measure, the ones further out, the ones drifting around the quiet edges, far from the crowded glow of the center. And nobody expected anything surprising from them. Everyone was quite sure they already knew what those outer stars would do. Here's what they thought would happen, and it's worth holding softly for a moment, because it's such a reasonable thing to have believed. Think again of the planets circling our own sun, the ones nearest the sun, like the little scorched world closest in, race around at tremendous speed, because they're held by that strong near pull of all that central mass. And the ones far out, the cold, slow giants at the fringes, they drift around much more lazily, taking lifetimes to complete a single loop, because out there, the pull has softened, spread thin across all that distance. The further you go from the center, the slower things move. That's the pattern. That's how gravity had always behaved, everywhere anyone had ever looked. Near the middle, fast. Far from the middle, slow, gentle, orderly, expected. So they carried that same picture out to the galaxy. And why wouldn't they? It was the most natural thing in the world. Most of the light in a galaxy pools up in that bright central bulge, all those countless stars crowded close together. And where there's light, they reasoned, there's stuff, there's mass, there's the source of the pull. So the outer stars, way out where the light thins to almost nothing, ought to be like those distant cold planets. They ought to be dawdling, drifting, easing around their enormous slow circles at a gentle, unhurried crawl, because there simply shouldn't be much out there to pull on them hard. That was the prediction. That was what the whole beautiful, sturdy structure of everything they knew told them to expect. And I want you to sit with how confident that expectation was, because it wasn't a guess, and it wasn't wishful thinking. It rested on everything, on centuries of watching planets swing around the sun and behave themselves perfectly, on all those careful sums about how mass pulls on mass, on a picture of the universe that had been right over and over and over again for longer than anyone could quite remember. When you've been right that many times, you stop bracing for surprises. You start to trust the ground beneath your feet. And that trust was entirely earned. It was the reward for all those patient generations who'd built the whole thing up, brick by careful brick. So out they went, night after night, to check the last easy part of a story they were sure they already knew. They gathered the light of those far, faint, edge-of-the-galaxy stars, the loneliest ones, wheeling slowly through the dark at the very rim of everything. And they read that light the way they'd learned to, teasing out from it that one quiet number, the speed. How fast is this distant star actually moving as it drifts around the great wheel? All they were doing was confirming the obvious, filling in the last few points on the graph, watching the line curve gently downward the way it was supposed to, as the stars got further and further from the crowded, glowing heart. Except the line didn't curve down. Now, I say that softly, because there's no need for any jolt here, no need to sit up in the dark. This is a story you're allowed to receive lying perfectly still, with your eyes closed, letting it wash over you like the far edge of a tide. But it's worth letting the strangeness of it settle in slowly, the way it settled slowly into the people who first saw it. Because those outer stars, the ones that were supposed to be drifting lazily along, barely held by a pull that should have gone soft and thin so far from the center, those stars weren't dawdling at all. They were moving fast, nearly as fast as the stars much closer in, racing around their enormous loops with an energy that, by everything anyone knew, they had absolutely no business having. Imagine tying a small weight to the end of a long string and swinging it around your head. If you loosen your grip, if you let the pull go slack, the weight can't keep whipping around at full speed. It has to slow, or it flies off entirely. That soft, far-away pull at the edge of the galaxy was supposed to be a loosening grip. And yet the outer stars kept right on racing, as though something out there were holding them tight, holding them at speed, some grip far stronger than all that thin, scattered starlight could ever explain. And so they measured again, because of course they did. That's what careful people do when the sky tells them something that can't be right. They check their instruments. They checked their sums. They went back out on other nights, to other stars, in other parts of the great wheel, fully expecting to find the mistake, the smudge on the lens, the slipped decimal, the small human error that would tidy everything back into its proper place. But the answer kept coming back the same. Star after star, edge after edge, galaxy after galaxy, once they had the tools to look further afield. The outer stars were all moving too fast. Every one of them. Not by a little, not in a way you could wave off, but steadily, stubbornly, everywhere they looked. And here's the thing I find so quietly astonishing, the thing I'd love you to drift off holding tonight. When you watch how fast a star moves, you're really watching how hard something is pulling on it. That was the whole beautiful trick. Remember? the one people had spent lifetimes learning. Motion tells you about mass. How something dances tells you how much is there, tugging on it. So when those outer stars turned out to be racing instead of dawdling, the light itself was telling them something plain and impossible all at once. There had to be far, far more mass out there than anyone could see. Far more than all the visible stars could account for. Something enormous, something heavy, something reaching out with a firm and steady grip, way out past the edge of the glow, where the telescope showed almost nothing at all. Nothing they could see. That's the part that changes everything, though it changes it so quietly. They pointed their instruments right at those outer regions, right where all that extra pull had to be coming from, and there was hardly any light there. No blaze of hidden stars, no bright crowd of anything. Just darkness, and the racing stars swinging through it, held fast by a grip that came from something no telescope could find. The galaxy was behaving as though it weighed vastly more than it looked like it should. As though most of what it was made of simply couldn't be seen at all. And you can feel, can't you, how strange a moment that must have been. Not frightening, exactly. More like the feeling of counting something you know well, something you've counted 100 times, and getting a different number, and counting again, and getting that same different number once more. A gentle, patient wrongness. The sky, which had added up so faithfully for so long, which had been the one dependable thing, the one place where the sums always came out clean, had quietly stopped adding up. And it hadn't stopped by a little. When they tallied it all, when they weighed the galaxy by how its stars were moving, and then weighed it again by how much light it gave off, the two numbers didn't just disagree. They disagreed enormously. There was so much more pull than there was visible stuff to make it that most of the galaxy, most of its whole weight, had to be made of something else entirely. Something dark, something silent, something no one had ever seen. But I don't want you to carry any worry into that, not tonight. Because notice what didn't happen. The stars didn't fly apart. The galaxy didn't come undone. Nothing broke or fell or failed. Everything up there kept right on turning, exactly as gracefully as it always had, held together by that firm and invisible grip, as if nothing were the matter at all. The only thing that had really changed was inside the people looking. They'd simply learned that the universe was bigger and stranger and far more full than they'd ever guessed, that most of it had been keeping quietly to itself the whole time, doing its steady work in the dark, holding the bright parts together without ever once asking to be noticed. And there's something almost tender in that, if you let yourself feel it as you lie there. All those long ages when people thought the visible sky was everything. When they lay back on their warm hillsides and counted the lights and believed they were seeing the whole of creation. There was always this vast, patient, unseen presence woven through it all, cradling every galaxy, steadying every wheel. It was there the entire time. Nobody was missing it because they'd failed. They just hadn't yet learned to read the one clue it left behind, which was motion. The way the stars danced, that faithful old trick. Watch how something moves and you'll know how much is there, turned out to be the only thread in the whole tapestry that could lead them to it. And when they finally followed that thread all the way out to the edge, it led them somewhere no one had ever imagined they'd have to go. We'll follow it there too, gently, in time. Not tonight, and not in any hurry, because there's no part of this that needs rushing. For now, it's enough, more than enough, just to rest in the size of what they found, to let it be true, softly, without reaching to explain it. That out there, past the last bright star, holding the whole slow wheel together, there is something we cannot see, something that has always been there, doing exactly what it has always done. The galaxy turning as it should, the far stars racing along, held tight by a grip out of the dark, and the whole vast, quiet, mostly invisible machinery of it, carrying you along too, right here, right now, in the middle of everything, asking nothing of you at all but to breathe, and to soften, and to let the great unseen weight of the universe go on, holding you, the way it always has, the way it always will. And here's the thing I love most about the people who first ran into that flat, stubborn line. The one that just wouldn't bend back down the way everyone expected. They didn't panic. They didn't announce anything grand. Their very first instinct, the most natural thing in the world, was to assume they'd made a mistake somewhere. Because that's what careful people do. When the sky hands you something that can't be right, you don't go rewriting the universe on the spot. You go back and you check your own arithmetic, quietly, one line at a time. So that's exactly what they did. They looked again at the light they'd gathered from those far, faint stars out at the rim. They asked themselves whether their instruments might have been fooling them, whether some smudge on the glass, some quirk in the measuring, had crept in and thrown the numbers off. They measured the same stars over again on different nights. They pointed their instruments at other patches of the same galaxy, just to be sure the strangeness wasn't hiding in one lonely corner. And every time, patiently, the answer came back the same. The outer stars were moving too fast, not a little too fast, far too fast for the amount of glowing stuff that anyone could point to. Now, I want you to sit with how gentle and unhurried this whole process was, because there's real comfort in it. This wasn't one thunderclap of a discovery, one single night where somebody gasped and the world tipped over. It was slow. It was a careful, almost tender kind of doubting, where people kept testing the thing they'd found precisely because they respected the universe too much to jump to conclusions about it. They wanted to be wrong in a way. They kept holding the door open for an ordinary explanation, hoping one would walk through. And it never quite did. Then somebody had the very natural thought, the one you'd probably have too, lying there in the quiet. Maybe it's just this galaxy. Maybe our own little corner of the cosmos is a bit peculiar, a bit of an oddball. And if we swing our instruments around to a different galaxy entirely, some other great wheel of stars off in another part of the sky, we'll see the sensible pattern we expected all along. The stars near the bright middle sweeping around fast, the ones out at the faint edges dawdling along slow, everything tidy, everything adding up. So they looked, and I find something deeply soothing in imagining this next stretch of the story, because it's really just people, over years and years, gently pointing their instruments at one galaxy after another, a spiral off in this direction, a great glowing pinwheel off in that one. Big ones, small ones, ones tilted toward us so we could see them face on like a plate laid flat. Ones turned nearly edge on so they looked like the thinnest sliver of light. Galaxy after galaxy, they measured how the stars were moving out toward the lonely rim, expecting each time that this would be the one where the line finally curved back down the way it was supposed to. And here's the quiet marvel of it. It never did. Galaxy after galaxy told the very same story. The outer stars, way out where the light thinned to almost nothing, were all sweeping around far faster than the visible matter could ever account for. The line stayed flat. Everywhere they looked, it stayed flat. It wasn't a fluke of our galaxy. It wasn't a smudge or a bad night or a broken instrument. It was, apparently, just the way galaxies are. All of them, as common as sunrise. Let that settle over you softly, because it changes the whole shape of the thing. When only your own house has a strange draft running through it, you can tell yourself it's just your house, just an old window that doesn't quite seal. But when you visit your neighbor's house, and the house across the street, and every house in every town you ever walk through, and every single one has that same gentle, invisible draft moving through it, well, then you're not looking at a quirk anymore. You're looking at something about the world itself, something woven into the very fabric of how things are built. And that's what those patient watchers slowly, calmly came to understand. Whatever this unseen weight was, it wasn't rare. It wasn't the exception. If anything, it was the rule, and the bright visible stars were the exception. The thin gold trim on a garment made mostly of something else. And once you're standing in that understanding, once you've accepted that nearly every galaxy is cradled in far more pull than its light can explain, a lovely new question opens up, slow and wide, like a valley coming into view as you crest a hill. If the galaxies themselves are held by all this unseen weight, what about the galaxies together? Because galaxies, it turns out, don't drift through the dark alone. They gather. They keep company. They pool up into great families, dozens of galaxies, hundreds of them, sometimes thousands, all loosely held near one another in enormous slow-turning clusters. Each galaxy, a single glowing member of a much larger congregation, and someone, years before, had already noticed something odd about those great gatherings, though at the time, hardly anyone quite knew what to make of it. This is one of my favorite gentle turns in the whole story, because it shows you how a clue can lie there quietly for a long, long while. Perfectly true, perfectly patient, just waiting for the rest of understanding to catch up to it. Long before people were carefully weighing the outer stars of single galaxies, someone had looked at one of these vast clusters, a great swarm of galaxies all moving around together, and had tried to do the very same trick we've been talking about all along. Watch how things move, and you learn how much is there. So he watched how the galaxies in that cluster were moving. Not the stars inside one galaxy this time, but the whole galaxies themselves, drifting and swinging around one another within their great shared crowd. And when he measured how fast they were going, and then worked out how much weight it would take to hold such a fast-moving swarm together, to keep all those galaxies from simply flinging themselves apart and scattering off into the emptiness, he got a number that made no sense against the light. The galaxies were moving so quickly that the visible matter, all those countless glowing stars in all those galaxies added together, came nowhere close to being enough to hold the crowd in one piece. There had to be far more weight than anyone could see. Vastly more. Something unseen, holding the whole great family together. Now here's the tender part. When he first noticed this, the rest of the story hadn't happened yet. Nobody had measured the flat lines in the spinning galaxies, Nobody had built up all that patient evidence from one galaxy after another. So this early observation, this quiet little flag planted way out ahead of everyone else, just sort of sat there. It wasn't ignored exactly, but the world wasn't ready to make sense of it. It was one strange reading, one lonely clue, and without the rest of the tapestry around it, it was hard to know what it meant. It was, in a way, an answer that arrived before the world had finished asking the question. And then, later, once people had gone galaxy by galaxy and found that same unseen weight cradling every spinning wheel, somebody remembered that old, quiet observation about the great clusters. And suddenly, it wasn't a loose oddity anymore. Suddenly, it fit. It clicked into place like the last piece along the edge of a puzzle, and everyone could see it belonged there all along. The same unseen weight that held the outer stars fast in their orbits was, it seemed, the very same kind of weight that held whole galaxies together in their great slow-turning crowds. Two completely different ways of looking, two entirely different scales, one peering at single stars circling within one galaxy, the other watching whole galaxies swinging around within a vast cluster, and both of them, independently, patiently, pointing at the same missing something. I find that so quietly reassuring, and I hope you do too, lying there in the soft dark. Because when two people in two different rooms, using two different methods, looking at two entirely different things, both arrive at the very same strange answer, you start to trust that answer in a deep and settled way. It's not one person's mistake anymore. It's not a smudge on one lens or a bad night at one instrument. It's the universe telling you the same thing in two different voices, calmly, without raising either of them. And when the universe repeats itself like that, gently but firmly, the wisest thing you can do is stop arguing and start listening. So that's roughly where our patient watchers found themselves, standing in front of two big, quiet, agreeing pieces of evidence. The spinning galaxies, whose outer stars raced far too fast, and the great clusters, whose galaxies swarmed far too quickly, both held together, apparently, by weight that gave off no light at all. And I want you to notice, as your thoughts drift and slow, that nobody at this point was claiming to know what the unseen weight was. That's a lovely and honest place in the story, and it's worth resting in. They weren't saying they'd found some new kind of star, or some hidden cloud, or any particular thing at all. They were being far more careful than that. They were only saying, look, there is more pull here than there is light to explain it. Something is there. We can feel its grip in the way everything moves. We just can't see it yet. And isn't that, when you really sit with it, a remarkably humble and beautiful thing to be able to say? To stand under the whole vast turning sky and admit, calmly, without fear, that most of what's holding it together is something you cannot see and do not yet understand. And that this is all right. That the not knowing doesn't have to be frightening. That you can hold a mystery that large in your open hands and simply let it be a mystery. For now, while the slow work of understanding goes on, one careful night at a time, the way it always has. Because notice, again, what still didn't happen, even now, with two great pieces of evidence stacked up side by side. The galaxies didn't fly apart. The clusters didn't scatter. Nothing came loose, or fell, or failed. Every spinning wheel kept right on turning, smooth and unbothered. And every great crowd of galaxies kept right on holding together, exactly as it always had, held in that same firm, invisible, uncomplaining grip. The only thing that had really shifted, once again, was inside the people doing the looking. The universe hadn't changed at all. It had been this way, cradled in unseen weight, since long before anyone was around to wonder about it. All that had changed was that a few patient watchers had finally learned to read one more of the clues it had been leaving out in plain sight the whole time. And the clue, as it always had been, was motion. That same faithful old thread we've been following since the very beginning, since those first people lay back on their warm hillsides and watched the lights wheel slowly overhead. Watch how something moves, and you'll know how much is there. It carried them from the wandering planets to the shape of the orbits. It carried them from the orbits to the weight of far, untouchable things. It carried them out to the lonely edges of the spinning galaxies. And now it had carried them further still, out to the great crowds of galaxies drifting through the deep. And every single time, that one humble thread had held. It never once led them wrong. It only led them, gently and steadily, somewhere larger than they'd expected to go. So for now, let's just rest here, in this wide and quiet place the story has brought us to. Two great pieces of evidence, agreeing softly with each other across the dark. A universe far heavier than it looks, and utterly untroubled by the fact. Whole galaxies turning as they should. Whole clusters of galaxies holding together as they should. All of it cradled, every last wheeling piece of it, in weight we cannot see and have only just begun to notice. There's nothing here to solve tonight, and nothing here to fear. There's only this enormous, gentle, patient thing, doing exactly what it's always done, holding the bright parts of the cosmos together without ever once asking to be seen, and carrying you along with it, right here, right now, as easily and as tirelessly as it carries every distant galaxy through the deep. And there's a third clue, waiting quietly a little further down the road, and I think tonight's a lovely night to let it drift into view. Because so far, everything we've followed has been about motion. How fast the stars turn at the edge of a galaxy. How fast the galaxies swing around one another inside their great shared crowd. Watch how something moves, and you'll know how much is there. That's been our thread the whole way along, faithful as ever. But it turns out there's another way the universe leaves its fingerprints out in the open. Another gentle clue it's been offering the whole time. And this one has nothing to do with motion at all. This one is about light itself and the quiet, curving path it takes as it crosses the dark. Here's the thing, and I want you to receive it slowly, the way you'd watch a candle flame lean in a draft. Light, as it travels across the cosmos, doesn't always go in a perfectly straight line. When it passes close by something very heavy, something with a lot of weight bundled up in it, the light bends. Just a little. It leans toward the heavy thing as it goes by, the way a stream of water leans around a stone. And the more weight there is, the more the light bends. Isn't that a soft and surprising idea to hold as you lie there? That even light, the fastest, straightest, most untouchable thing there is, can be gently coaxed off its path by the sheer presence of something massive nearby. Now, sit with what that means, without straining at it. If light bends when it passes something heavy, then the amount of bending is another kind of scale. Another way to weigh a thing you can never touch. You don't have to watch how it moves. You just have to watch how the light behind it gets nudged aside as it slips past. And that's a wonderful gift when you think about it, because it gives us a completely separate way of asking the very same old question. Not, how fast is this turning, but how much does the light lean as it goes by? Two different questions, two different clues, and yet, as you'll see, they end up whispering the very same answer. Let me paint the picture for you, gently, because it's a lovely one. Imagine a great heavy cluster of galaxies, one of those enormous crowds we've been talking about, sitting out there in the deep. And imagine, far, far behind it, much further still, another galaxy, glowing softly, sending its light out across the dark toward us. Now that light from the faraway galaxy has to pass the great heavy cluster on its long journey to reach our eyes. And as it passes, it bends. It leans in around all that gathered weight. And so, by the time that light finally arrives here, the picture of the distant galaxy has been stretched and smeared and sometimes bent into a soft, glowing arc, like a reflection wobbling on the surface of a pond. Sometimes the same far galaxy even shows up more than once, its light having curved around opposite sides of the heavy cluster. So we see 2 or 3 or 4 soft copies of the very same distant thing, arranged around the crowd like petals. Take a slow breath and let that image just hover there for a moment. A ring of gentle smeared light wrapped around a great dark crowd of galaxies. It's one of the quietest, strangest, most beautiful things the sky has ever shown us. And it happens simply because there's so much weight sitting in the middle, bending the light of everything behind it as it drifts past. And here's where it all comes together, softly, without any drama at all, because when people measured how much that light was bending, when they carefully worked out how much weight it would take to smear a distant galaxy into an arc like that, they found the very same thing they'd found before. Once again, the visible galaxies, all the ones giving off light, all the stars you could actually see and count and add up, weren't nearly enough. There simply wasn't enough shining matter in that great crowd to bend the light as far as it was clearly being bent. Something more had to be there. Something heavy, something you couldn't see, spread all through the cluster, doing the extra work of leaning that faraway light around. Do you feel how gently the pieces are settling against one another now? 3 clues, coming from 3 completely different directions. The lonely stars at the rim of a single galaxy, turning far too fast for the light we can see. The galaxies inside a great crowd, swinging around one another far too quickly to be held by the light we can see. And now the light of distant galaxies, bending far too much as it passes those same great crowds, as though there's more weight there than any of the shining parts could ever account for. 3 different questions, 3 different ways of listening. And every single time, the same soft answer comes back out of the dark. There's more here than meets the eye. There's always been more here than meets the eye. I find something deeply restful in that, and I hope you do too. Because when 3 separate clues, gathered by different people in different ways, at different times, all lean toward the very same conclusion, you begin to feel that you're not being fooled. You're not chasing a mistake, or a trick of the instruments, or some error that'll be tidied away next year. You're standing in front of something real, something the universe has been quietly telling you, over and over, in 3 different languages, patiently waiting for you to notice that they all say the same word. And around about here, in the slow unfolding of all this, people finally gave the thing a name. Not because naming it explained it, mind you. Naming something and understanding something are 2 very different acts, and it's worth being honest about that as you drift. They gave it a name simply because they needed a way to talk about it, a small handle to hold this enormous unseen presence by. They called it dark matter. Dark, not because it's sinister or frightening, but simply because it gives off no light. It doesn't shine. It doesn't glow. It doesn't reflect the light of anything else. It's dark the way a room with the lamp switched off is dark, the way the far side of a hill is dark, the way the inside of your own closed eyes is dark right now, just unlit, just quietly there, without any glow to announce itself. Isn't that a gentle name when you really turn it over? Dark matter. It doesn't promise to have all the answers. It doesn't pretend to understand itself. It's almost a humble name, honestly. More a description of what we don't see than a claim about what it is. It says, essentially, there's something here, something with weight, and it doesn't give off any light. And that's about as much as we can say for now. And there's a real honesty in that, a willingness to name a mystery without dressing it up as something more settled than it is. The people who named it weren't claiming victory. They were just laying down a marker, a little word to hang all these agreeing clues upon, so the slow work of understanding could carry on with something to point at. And notice, once more, what still didn't happen, even with a name pinned to it. The galaxies didn't change. The great crowds didn't scatter. The light kept right on bending in its soft arcs around the heavy dark. Giving the thing a name didn't make it behave any differently than it had been behaving all along, for billions of quiet years before anyone was here to call it anything at all. The name was for us, not for it. The universe went on exactly as it always had, cradling all its bright turning pieces in that same unlit wait, entirely untroubled by whether or not we'd found a word for it yet. Let that be a comfort as you lie there. All of this naming and measuring and careful looking, all this patient work across the centuries, it never once disturbed the thing itself. The sky has never had to wait on our understanding. It simply keeps doing what it does, holding everything together, whether we've noticed or not, whether we've named it or not, whether we understand it tonight or won't understand it for 100 years yet. There's something so restful in that. I think the not knowing on our end changes nothing at all on its end. The cosmos isn't anxious about being understood. It's just there, steady and sure, holding. And here's a soft thought to carry a little further down with you. Whatever this dark matter is, it isn't rare, and it isn't off in some far corner of things. It's not a strange little pocket of weirdness tucked away where it can't reach us. It's woven all through everything. It's spread through the galaxies and around the galaxies and between the great crowds of galaxies, a vast, gentle, invisible web threaded through the whole of the cosmos. The bright parts, all the stars, and all the shining gas, all the things that actually give off light, all the things we ever knew about for all those thousands of years of looking up, they turn out to be the smaller part. The little glowing highlights scattered across a much larger, darker, quieter frame. The stars are almost like foam riding on the surface of a deep, still sea. And the sea itself is the thing we're only now beginning to notice. feel how that gently turns the picture inside out, without any shock to it. For so long we thought the lights were the main event, and the darkness between them was just empty, just backdrop, just the black paper the stars were pinned to. And now, slowly, calmly, we're coming to understand that it may be the other way around, that the darkness between the lights isn't empty at all, that it's full, quietly and enormously full, and that it's this unseen fullness, more than the lights themselves, that's been shaping everything, holding everything, steering the great slow motions of the whole cosmos from the very beginning. There's no fear in that, though. I want to be clear about that as your breathing slows. It isn't a lonely thought or a cold one. If anything, it makes the universe feel less empty than we ever imagined, not more. All that space we used to think of as vacant and black and bare, it's brimming, it's cradling. It's the very thing that's been keeping the galaxies from flying apart, the thing that's been holding the great crowds together, the thing that's been gently bending the light of distant worlds so that we could finally notice it was there. Far from being empty, the dark between the stars may be the most crowded, most present, most quietly busy part of the whole sky. So let's just rest here again for a while, in this widened place the stories brought us to. 3 clues now, not 2, all leaning softly toward the same truth. A universe far heavier than it looks, and completely at peace with the fact. A name, gentle and honest, to hold the mystery by, and a picture slowly turning itself inside out, so that the darkness we once dismissed becomes the deep, full, cradling thing that holds all the brightness in place. There's nothing to solve tonight. There's nothing to fear. There's only this enormous, patient, unlit presence, threaded through everything, holding you as easily and as tirelessly as it holds every far galaxy drifting through the deep, and asking nothing from you in return, but that you rest and breathe and let it hold you a little while longer. So let's just stay here a moment longer, resting in that widened place before we drift any further down together. Because there's a question that tends to rise softly once you've held all 3 of those clues in your mind at once. And it's not a worried question, not tonight. It's more like the kind of question you ask half asleep, with no real need for an answer, just turning the thing over in the warm dark, because it's pleasant to turn over. The question is simply this: if it's really there, all that unseen weight, all that quiet fullness threaded through everything, then what is it? What is the dark matter actually made of? And here's the lovely part, the part I want you to let wash over you without any strain at all. We don't fully know, and that's all right. That's more than all right. Because for a long, long time now, patient people have been gently turning over the possibilities, the way you might turn a smooth stone over and over in your hand, not to solve anything urgently, just to know it a little better by feel. The first thing they did was the most natural thing in the world. They wondered whether the dark matter might just be ordinary stuff that happens not to shine. And you can see why that would be the first thought, can't you? After all, the night sky is full of things that don't give off much light. Cold clouds of gas, drifting quietly between the stars. Burnt-out embers of old suns, grown dim and dark. Great cold worlds, wandering alone with no star to light them. Little failed stars that never quite caught fire, glowing faintly, if at all. The universe is full of dark, quiet, ordinary things. And it would have been the simplest, gentlest answer of all if the missing weight had just turned out to be more of those. More of the familiar. More of the same kind of matter we're all made of. Only shy. Only hidden. Only keeping to the shadows. So they went looking. And this is the part I find so soothing, honestly, because it shows you again how careful and unhurried the whole thing has been. They didn't just decide. They looked for those dark, ordinary things. They looked for the cold clouds and the burnt-out embers and the lonely, wandering worlds. They had clever ways of catching them, ways that didn't need the things to shine at all. They watched for the little tug of a dark world passing in front of a distant star. They added up all the quiet gas they could find. They counted and counted again, the way people in this story have always counted, patiently, one faint thing at a time, and they did find some. That's worth saying softly, because it's true and it's tidy. There really is a fair amount of ordinary matter out there that doesn't shine, hiding in the cold and the dark. But when they added it all up, all the dim ordinary stuff, all the shy familiar matter keeping to the shadows, it simply wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. It came up short, again and again, the same way the light of the galaxies had come up short, the same way everything visible had come up short every single time anyone tried to make the sums balance. The dark, ordinary things were real, but they were only a little of what was missing. The great bulk of it, the deep, patient fullness holding all the galaxies together, was something else. Something that didn't fit into the familiar categories at all. Now, I want you to notice how gently that lands, lying there in the dark. Because it could feel unsettling. In the wrong hands, the idea that the thing filling the universe isn't the ordinary stuff we know. But it isn't unsettling. Not really. Not when you let it settle at its own slow pace. It's just another turn of the same long, patient story. Every time we've looked closely, the universe has turned out to be a little larger, a little fuller, a little more surprising than we'd assumed. And every time, people have taken that in stride, calmly, adding the new piece to the picture and carrying on. This is just one more piece. The missing weight isn't mostly cold gas, and it isn't mostly burnt-out suns, and it isn't mostly lonely, dark worlds. It's something we haven't held in our hands yet. Something that doesn't shine, and doesn't glow, and doesn't burn, and doesn't even seem to bump into things the way ordinary matter does. And that last part is worth resting on for a while, because it's the strangest and softest thing about it. This dark matter, whatever it is, seems to pass right through the ordinary world, almost as if the ordinary world weren't there. It doesn't crash into the gas. It doesn't pile up against the stars. It doesn't slow down and settle the way ordinary dust and rock and cloud would. It just drifts through, quietly, feeling only that one gentle thing we keep coming back to. That same soft pull we've been following since the very first hillside. Since the very first watcher lay back and wondered why the lights moved the way they moved. Gravity. That's the only voice this dark matter seems to answer to. It ignores everything else. It doesn't glow. It doesn't reflect. It doesn't block the light of the stars behind it. You could be moving through a great tide of it this very moment, here in your quiet room, and you'd never feel a thing. It would pass through you as easily as a thought passes through a dream. Isn't that a remarkable thing to drift off holding? that the most abundant kind of stuff in the whole cosmos might be flowing softly through your darkened room right now, through the walls, through the blankets, through you, without a whisper, without a nudge, without the faintest sensation at all. Not because it's magic, and not because it's frightening, but simply because it's shy in a way ordinary matter never is. It keeps entirely to itself, touching the rest of the world only through that one gentle, universal pull. The pull that holds the galaxies, the pull that holds you softly to your bed, the pull that has been the quiet main character of this whole story from the beginning. So people had to let go, gently, of the simplest guess. The dark matter wasn't just familiar stuff hiding in the shadows. And once they'd let that go, they began, patiently, to imagine what else it could be. And here the story opens up into a kind of soft, wide field of possibilities. The sort of field you could wander through half asleep for a very long time, without ever needing to reach the far side of it. Maybe, some thought, it's some kind of particle we've simply never met. Something small, something abundant, something made in the earliest moments of the universe and left drifting ever since, filling the spaces between everything, faithful and silent, felt only by its weight. A new kind of thing, not on any of our old lists, not among any of the familiar pieces we're built from, but they're all the same, in enormous, gentle abundance. And people have gone looking for that too. That's the part that never stops warming me. Honestly, all over the world, patient people have built quiet, careful experiments, tucked deep underground where the ordinary noise of the world can't reach. And they sit and they wait, in the dark and the stillness, hoping to catch the faintest, softest whisper of one of these shy particles brushing past. It's the same patience, do you see? The very same patience as those first watchers on the hillsides, the same willingness to sit still for a very long time, gathering the faintest hints, one at a time, adding a little certainty night after night, in no hurry at all. The tools have changed almost beyond recognition. The patience hasn't changed a bit. And I want you to feel how gentle it is that so far the whisper hasn't clearly come. That the shy particle, if that's what it is, has kept its secret a while longer. Because in the wrong telling, that would sound like failure, like frustration, like people beating against a locked door. But it isn't that at all. It's just the sky doing what the sky has always done in this story, which is to give up its secrets slowly, in its own good time, never faster than we're ready to receive them. The not knowing here isn't a wall. It's an open door standing quietly ajar, with the patient people still walking gently toward it, carrying their faint lights, in no more hurry than the watchers who came thousands of years before them. So we can rest tonight in exactly the same easy not knowing we've rested in all along. We know the dark matter is there. 3 clues from 3 different directions, all leaning softly toward the same truth, all agreeing quietly across the dark. We know it isn't rare and isn't tucked away, but threaded through everything, cradling every galaxy, steadying every slow wheel of stars. We know it isn't mostly the familiar, cold, dark, ordinary stuff, because people looked carefully, and it simply wasn't enough. And we know it's shy, so shy it slips through the whole solid-seeming world untouched, answering only to that one soft, faithful pull. What we don't yet know is its name, its true name, the deep name for what it actually is. And that unknown sits there in the middle of everything, not as a threat, not as a gap that needs frantically filling tonight, but as a gentle open question, patient as the stars, content to wait for us as long as it takes. Let that be the softest kind of comfort as you lie there, breathing slower now, your thoughts moving at that same unhurried pace the whole story moves at. There's a great, quiet mystery woven through the entire universe, flowing perhaps through this very room. And the people who study it most closely aren't frightened of it, aren't rushing at it, aren't lying awake in a cold sweat over it. They're doing what humans have always done under this sky. They're watching and waiting and gathering the faint light patiently, one careful night after another, perfectly at peace with the fact that the answer will come when it comes and not a moment sooner. And you can be at peace with it too. You don't have to solve the dark matter tonight. Nobody's asking you to. The people with the deep underground detectors aren't asking you to. The whole enormous, patient, unlit presence threaded through the galaxies and around them and between them isn't asking you to. All it's ever asked, from the first hillside to this quiet room, is that you keep breathing softly and let your grip go slack and let yourself be held as easily and as tirelessly as it holds every far galaxy drifting through the deep. The mystery isn't going anywhere. It's the most patient thing there is. It will still be here, whole and gentle and waiting, whenever you'd like to come back to it, tomorrow, or the night after, or the night after that. There's nothing to finish. There's only this soft, wide, unhurried field of not knowing to lie down in, and rest, and let the slow turning of it all carry you gently a little further down. There's one more piece of this I'd love to lay down beside you tonight, softly, now that the three clues are resting so quietly together in your mind. And it's this. When people finally sat down and added it all up, when they weighed the moving stars and the swinging galaxies and the bending light and asked the simple question, how much of this unseen stuff is there compared to the ordinary kind? The answer that came back was gentle in its own way, and also quietly staggering. For every handful of the familiar matter, the stuff that makes up stars and planets and oceans and blankets and you, there's something like 5 times as much of the dark. 5 to 1. The stuff we can see, the whole glittering, visible universe that people spent thousands of years mapping and loving and lying beneath, turns out to be the smaller share. The lesser part, a bright little trim around the edge of something far larger and far quieter. And I want you to notice how softly that lands when you're already this relaxed. Because in the daylight, an idea like that might feel dizzying. Most of everything is the thing we can't see. But here, in the dark, at this slow and easy hour, it doesn't feel dizzying at all. It feels almost natural, almost obvious, the way true things often do once you stop fighting them. Of course, the visible part is the smaller part. Of course, there's more to the world than the bit that catches the light. You've probably always half known that, in some quiet way, long before anyone told you the number. Let me tell you something else that people slowly came to understand, because it's one of the most beautiful turns in the whole long story, and it's a soothing one to drift toward. For the longest time, you might imagine dark matter as a kind of afterthought, an extra ingredient sprinkled into a universe that was already built. But it's really the other way around. When scientists went looking patiently at how the very earliest structures in the universe came together. They found that the ordinary matter, all that familiar stuff, could never have gathered itself into galaxies on its own. Not in the time it had. It needed something to gather around. Something already there, already pooling quietly into vast unseen clumps and ridges and valleys, laying down a kind of hidden landscape for everything visible to settle into. Think of it gently, the way you'd think of snow settling into the shape of the ground beneath it. The snow is the part you see, bright and obvious, catching the light. But the shape it takes, the drifts and the hollows, all of that is decided by the land underneath, the land you can't see at all from a distance. Dark matter is that land. It came first, in a sense. It drew itself together first, into a vast, soft, invisible framework threaded all through the young universe. And only then did the ordinary matter come drifting in, sliding down into those unseen valleys, pooling in those unseen basins, lighting up at last into the stars and galaxies we can actually look at. Everything bright that you have ever seen in the night sky is sitting in a hollow scooped out by something you'll never see. Isn't that a tender thing to hold as you lie there? That the whole visible universe is, in a way, a light dusting settled over a hidden shape. That the galaxies didn't decide where to form all on their own. They were guided, gently, into place by the quiet pull of all that dark matter that had gone before them, arranging itself patiently in the dark, getting everything ready. And people gave that hidden landscape a name too, a soft one, the way they named the dark matter itself. They call it the cosmic web. Because when they build their careful maps of where all this unseen mass lies, it doesn't sit in a smooth, even blanket. It gathers into long, faint filaments, great slow threads of dark matter stretching across almost unimaginable distances, meeting at knots where the galaxies crowd thickest, with vast, quiet, nearly empty spaces in between. A web, a soft, enormous, three-dimensional cobweb of the invisible, strung all through the cosmos, with every bright galaxy hung upon it like a single dewdrop caught on a single strand in the early morning. Let that image settle over you, slowly, without any effort. A web so large that light itself takes ages to cross even a single thread of it. And our whole galaxy, our whole home, all those hundreds of billions of stars we talked about earlier, just one bright bead on one quiet strand of the whole vast, patient weave. It doesn't make you feel small, I don't think. Not on a night like this. It makes you feel held, woven in, part of a pattern far too large to see all at once, but gentle and orderly, and quietly beautiful in its arrangement. There's another clue I never told you about, and I saved it for now because it's the deepest one, the one that reaches furthest back, and it makes a lovely thing to drift toward. Because everything we've followed so far, the turning galaxies, the swinging crowds, the bending light, all of that comes from the universe as it is now, more or less, the grown-up universe, full of finished stars. But scientists found a way to look at the universe as it was when it was very, very young, almost newborn. There's a faint glow that fills all of space in every direction, a soft leftover warmth from the earliest days of everything. From a time long before there were any stars at all, it's the oldest light there is. And it's been traveling, patiently, for almost the whole age of the universe, just to arrive here, gently, and be noticed. And when people looked at that ancient glow, Very carefully, they saw the faintest patterns in it, the tiniest ripples, the softest unevenness, places where the early universe was a whisper warmer or a whisper cooler than the rest. And those ripples, it turns out, carry a kind of memory. They remember how matter was arranged back then, at the very beginning, when everything was still smooth and simple and new. And when scientists read that memory, when they worked out what mix of ingredients could have made exactly those ripples and no others, the answer came back once again, quietly agreeing with everything else. There had to be dark matter, lots of it, about that same 5-to-1 share, written right into the oldest light in existence, from before the first star ever shone. Do you feel how gently all of this keeps agreeing with itself? That's the part I keep coming back to. The part that makes the whole thing so restful instead of unsettling. Because you might think a mystery this big would be full of contradictions, full of loose threads pulling in different directions, keeping careful people awake at night. But it isn't. Every time somebody finds a new way to look, a completely new window, the turning stars, the crowded galaxies, the bent light, the oldest glow in the sky, they all lean the same way. They all whisper the same soft number. They all point, calmly, at the same unseen presence. It's less like stumbling on a puzzle and more like watching a chorus, all these different voices from all these different directions, quietly singing the same note. Now, there's a question you might be turning over softly as you lie there, and it's a fair one. If this dark matter is everywhere, threaded through everything, 5 times more common than all the familiar stuff, then why can't we just reach out and find a piece of it? And the answer is the shyness we talked about, but it's worth sitting with a little more gently because it's genuinely strange in the most peaceful way. Dark matter doesn't clump the way ordinary matter does. Ordinary stuff, when it falls together, bumps and jostles and heats up and collides and eventually settles into tight little balls, into planets, into stars, into you. It can touch itself. It can slow itself down. That's why the visible world is so lumpy, so full of hard, distinct things. But dark matter, as far as anyone can tell, does almost none of that. It doesn't bump. It doesn't jostle. It slides through itself as easily as it slides through everything else. And so instead of collapsing into tight little balls, it stays spread out, soft and wide, in great gentle clouds. Every galaxy, ours included, sits inside one of these vast, soft, invisible clouds, far bigger than the bright galaxy itself, reaching out into the dark on every side, quiet and diffuse, and holding everything together with nothing but that faithful pull. They call it a halo, which is a lovely word for it. Not a halo of light, but a halo of the unseen. A great soft sphere of dark matter, far larger than all the stars, cradling every galaxy from the outside in. So when people build their deep, patient detectors and wait in the dark for a single quiet touch, they're not waiting for something rare to wander by. The stuff is all around them, streaming softly through the whole apparatus every second, through the rock and the shielding and the delicate waiting hearts of their machines. It's not that dark matter is scarce down there. It's that it's so gentle, so unwilling to touch anything, that even with all that abundance flowing through, the odds of catching just one particle in the act of the faintest possible nudge are almost impossibly small. And so they wait, not anxiously, just patiently, the way you'd wait for a very shy animal to step, at last, into the edge of the firelight on an evening when you have nowhere else you need to be. And here's the thing that I find most soothing of all about those waiting people. The thing I hope you can carry down into sleep with you. They've narrowed it down, gently, over the years. They have their best gentle guesses about what the dark matter might turn out to be. Perhaps it's a kind of particle nobody has ever caught, far heavier than the ordinary ones, drifting through everything untouched. The sort of thing they call by soft technical names that don't really matter tonight. Or perhaps it's something almost the opposite, unimaginably light, so light that it behaves less like a scattering of tiny grains and more like a vast, slow, invisible ripple washing through all of space at once. They don't know which. They may not know for a long while yet. But notice, even here, even at the very frontier of the not knowing, how calm the whole enterprise stays. They're not tearing their hair out. They're building the next detector, a little more sensitive than the last. They're thinking of the next window to look through. They're getting ready, quietly, for the answer whenever it decides to arrive. Because that's what this whole long story has been. Really, from the very first hillside to the deepest underground room. People getting ready. People building the next small tool. Gathering the next faint measurement. Laying one more careful stone on top of all the careful stones that came before. Nobody ever solved it all in a single night. Nobody was ever meant to. Each generation simply saw a little further into the dark than the one before, handed what they'd found gently onward, and lay down at last to rest, content, knowing the watching would go on without them. The person who first weighed a planet never lived to weigh a galaxy. The person who first weighed a galaxy never lived to map the cosmic web. And the people mapping it now will hand their maps someday to people not yet born, who'll see further still and rest just as easily when their own night comes. There's such peace in being one small part of something that patient. You don't have to see the end of it. You were never supposed to. You just get to add your own small piece of watching on your own quiet nights, and then let your eyes close and trust the long, slow work to keep unfolding without you, exactly as it always has, one faint light at a time, one careful measurement at a time, one gentle night after another, reaching softly out toward an answer that's in no hurry at all to arrive, and that will be no less beautiful for having made us wait. You were never meant to, and there's a freedom in that I'd love to leave with you tonight, softer than anything else I've said. All those people, stretched out across all those centuries, from the ones lying on warm hillsides, counting the lights, to the ones sitting a mile underground, waiting for the faintest possible touch. Not one of them held the whole answer in their hands. Not one of them needed to. They each held a single thread, and they each passed it on. And the pattern only ever showed itself slowly, the way a face slowly appears in a photograph, left to develop in the dark. And here's something gentle I want to add now, something we haven't quite touched yet, because it belongs right here at the end, when the energy in the room has gone soft and low. For all the mystery of it, for all the not knowing, the dark matter has actually been one of the kindest things in the whole story. I mean that. Because without it, none of this would be here at all. Think of the very early universe, that faint warm haze we talked about a little while ago. Almost perfectly smooth, almost perfectly even. Just the tiniest ripples running through it. Left on its own, That ordinary glowing stuff might never have gathered into anything. It might have just drifted and thinned and cooled forever, a fog with nowhere to settle. But the dark matter was already there, quietly pulling, gently deepening those first faint dimples in the fabric of things, making the soft places softer and the gathered places more gathered, long before the first star ever caught light. It built the cradles first, and only then did the ordinary matter come drifting down into them, pooling in the hollows the dark matter had already shaped, warming, brightening, at last becoming the galaxies and the suns and the slow turning wheels of light we've been following this whole long night. So when you look at it that way, the thing we can't see turns out to be the thing that made room for everything we can. The unseen scaffolding held still and patient in the dark, so that the visible could grow. There's something almost tender in that, I think. The quiet one, the shy one, the one that never bumps and never glows and never asks to be noticed, doing the deep, slow work underneath it all, and never once needing the credit. Let that be a soft thought to rest in. The most abundant thing in creation is also the most modest. And notice, one more time, and then we really will let it all go. How none of this ever needed to be frightening. That's the thread I've wanted to hand you all along, gently, from the very first minute. We started this evening with people who thought the visible sky was everything. And we've ended it with people who know that most of the universe is something they've never held and may not name for years yet. And in all that distance, across all that widening of the mystery, the mood of the thing never once turned to fear. It only ever deepened into a kind of calm wonder. Every time the sky refused to add up, somebody simply looked again, more carefully, and found that the strangeness was real and made a little room for it, and slept well that night anyway. That's the whole temperament of it. Curiosity without panic, patience without dread, a willingness to sit with an open question the way you'd sit with a good friend who doesn't need you to fill the silence. I hope you can carry a little of that temperament down with you now, into your own night, into your own open questions, whatever they happen to be, because you have them too. We all lie down with a few things unsolved, a few threads that don't quite tie off, a few worries that haven't yet chosen to reveal what they really are. And the great slow lesson of this whole story, from the hillside to the underground room, is that you don't have to finish any of it tonight. You're allowed to let it stay unresolved and rest anyway. The universe itself does that. It carries 5 parts hidden for every 1 part shown, and it goes on turning, calm and unhurried and entirely at peace with all it hasn't yet explained. You can do the same. You can let the loose threads be loose until morning. They'll wait. They always do. Feel how far down you've drifted now. How much heavier and warmer and slower everything has become since we started. That's exactly as it should be. There's nothing left to reach for tonight. Nothing left to understand. Nothing you need to hold on to. The watchers are still watching, somewhere out there in their quiet rooms, and they'll keep watching long after you've slipped all the way under. And their patience is enough for all of us. You can set your small piece of the watching down now. You can let it rest in gentler hands. In just a moment, I'm going to go quiet. And when I do, another one of these long, slow stories will be waiting to begin on its own, drifting in softly right behind this one, so that if you're still the tiniest bit awake, there's no reason to stir, no reason to reach for anything. no screen to touch. You can simply let the next calm voice carry you onward the way a slow current carries a leaf, without you ever having to lift a finger. Just let it come. Let it keep the dark company for you while you sleep. And if some quiet part of you would like more evenings like this one, more of these long, gentle walks out toward the edge of what we know and softly back again, you can let this little channel know in whatever small way feels easy, so these stories can keep finding their way to you on the nights you need them. But that's a thought for the daylight, truly. Nothing to do about it now. Nothing to do about anything now. For now, there's only this: the soft weight of the blankets, the slow rise and fall of your own breathing, easier than it was an hour ago. The whole vast invisible universe streaming gently through the room, through the walls, through you, cradling everything, asking nothing. All those far faint stars still wheeling slowly at the rim of their galaxies, held by a hand you'll never see. All those crowds of galaxies drifting in their great shared dark, steadied by the same quiet presence. All that light out there still bending softly around all that hidden weight, drawing its long, slow arcs across the deep. And all of it, every bit of it, perfectly content to remain a little bit mysterious for a while longer, in no hurry at all, exactly like you. Right now, sinking down into the last of the evening with nothing left to solve. Let the story keep unfolding without you. That was always the plan. Let the watching go on in other hands. Let the answer take all the time it likes to arrive. And let yourself, finally, completely rest. Sleep now. The universe is holding you, all of it, the seen and the unseen alike. And it isn't going anywhere. Good night.